And in 2014, we took a step by creating an opportunity to honor younger brothers who exemplify what it means to be an effective servant leader. And this afternoon, we're going to be recognizing our fourth recipient of the Outstanding Young Alumnus Award. And this award is given annually to an alumnus under the age of 35 who has demonstrated excellence in his professional field and service to the community, the public, or society at large. It embodies, of course, the mission, values, spirit, and pride of Phi Kappa Theta. So we're very honored today to present this award to Brother Sean Guardian, who continues to serve society, fraternity, and God, and is an example of a brother who has found his passion and purpose. And before we bring him up, we have a video that will share a little bit about Brother Guardian and be a part of the series, the Driven series. It will recognize the format from last night's video. So please join me in watching this video about our very worthy fourth recipient of the Young Alumnus Award, Brother Sean Guardian.
I know so many people who have spent so much time talking about how next year they're going to go do it, or next year, or once they finish paying off this, or paying off that, or once they get promoted, or they save up their vacation. But there's a cool quote, like, don't let perfect get in the way of possible. And if you're always waiting for that time when you suddenly have $50,000 in the bank and no student debt, and you have 6 weeks vacation, like, that day's never going to happen. And you're going to, suddenly find yourself at a point where you can't go to a trip like this, and you're going to wonder why you had waited all that time. So just go do it. I can say that I left at a time when everybody else my age was focusing on finding a job and getting themselves established in their career, whatever it was that they were doing. And now I'm back. I've had 2 years of the most amazing experience, the most rewarding and fulfilling and developmental experience of my life, I'd say. And it's not like I'm set back from everybody, It's not like I have, like I said before, doomed my life to mediocrity or anything like that. Like, I'll be just fine, and if I go and do it again, I'll be just fine afterwards. And so I think that people just need to go and do it. Like, if you have an inkling to go and serve overseas or serve in the U.S. and you think that it's something you're interested in, just go do it. It felt kind of, I don't know, manly, if you will, to kind of be out there roughing it on my own. Trying to figure things out. I enjoyed the fact that for a long time I didn't have internet or a phone or way of communicating unless I was willing to kind of schlep it to like the one internet cafe in an area or something like that. Kind of builds an independence and a resilience, just figuring it out, And I think that was something that came out of my time in my chapter of Phi Kappa. Was kind of an informal motto for our chapter was like, figure it out. You don't need an instruction book for everything you do. You don't need somebody holding your hand and walking you through it. Like, we're adults at this point, especially once you go through your time in college, and you can figure it out. It's not the worst thing in the world to go into the country first and then ask around and see where there might be a group that you can work with. To me, that's sort of half the fun of it, is the adventure that comes with it. And you'll find a group, and you might find several that you want to work with. It doesn't have to be one organization. Like I said, there's millions of people that need help in not just one way. And so once you get there, if you have a desire to help people, like, there will be an outlet for you to do that. It's work I really care about, something super important to me, and I hope that it gets even one person to decide to do something similar. There's a lot of work out there that needs to get done, a lot of people that need help, and for myself, I can only promise you that you won't regret it. It's one of the best things that I ever decided to do. So, thank you.
Great. And before we present this award to Sean, I forgot to mention earlier that we have the first recipient of the Young Alumnus of the Year Award with us, and that's Tom Moore. Tom, would you please stand and let us recognize you? And Brother Sean, would you come up? And we're honored, and what a great example you set for all of us to be a servant leader. And we're honored to present you with the Outstanding Young Alumnus of 2017. Congratulations.
Thank you guys for having me. I guess the best way to talk about all this is just to kind of share what prompted me to go and just the experience, take you through all the countries that I got to go to. So when I finished up at university, I thought I had a plan, like I'm sure a lot of you do, and those of you that are older than me probably know what I'm going to say, where like the plan doesn't seem to work the way that you thought it would. It almost never does, and those of you that are still in undergrad, it's not going to work. It just doesn't happen that way. Grab it? Okay. But at the end of 2014, I was getting ready to graduate, getting ready to become, a police officer. That's what I'd always wanted to do. And my chapter got in trouble for hazing allegations while I was serving as the associate member educator and the president at the time. And kind of in an instant, everything just kind of crashed and burned around me. Denied from every department in California, every federal department, and I was in a bit of a mess. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know what to do next. Everything I had done in college, everything I'd worked towards, every leadership role, every decision I'd made was supposed to be for that, and then it was gone, and didn't know what my options were. But I got involved with some social work in the San Diego area and City Heights with underserved youth, and decided kind of at the urging of my dad to consider doing some work overseas. My dad grew up in the Philippines, and after he finished college, he served in the Peace Corps for 2 years in Honduras. And so I looked at different opportunities to go serve, what was out there. I figured the Philippines would be a good place to start. And this was shortly after Typhoon Haiyan, or Hurricane Yolanda as it's known in the US, had made landfall in Tacloban in the island of Leyte. Biggest storm to date to ever make landfall anywhere in the world. There were about 6,000 people killed. Over 2,500 schools were rendered unusable for kids. Over $2.5 billion worth of damages. And even to this day, still a ton of work to be done in the area, and it may never fully recover. Every year the islands get hit with more storms. And so I decided, sort of on a whim really, to go to the Philippines. Packed 1 pair of pants, 3 pairs of socks, 2 t-shirts, and a rain jacket. I imagine most of you brought more clothes for this one weekend. And I shoved off and went to see what would happen, help build schools, help put together shelters and homes for the people in these areas, in the barangays in the Philippines. And from there, it kind of snowballed into something bigger. From there I decided, I can't just let it be 1 month that I'm gone and then I come back to the US. This is my thing. And so from there, I went to India and I started working with the Salam Balak Trust in Delhi, the 9th most densely populated city in the world, and that has 3 in every 1,000 people are homeless in Delhi. And when you walk through the streets, if anybody's had the opportunity to go to India, you've seen it firsthand, that there's just people living on top of people, living on top of massive piles of trash, and there's filth and just sadness that almost overwhelms you. And it's kind of an assault on the senses to see all of that at once. At one time you have these beautiful 1,000-year-old temples and mosques and buildings, but you have just children running up and down the streets begging, tugging on your pants, asking for a little bit of money. And so I had an opportunity to work with a shelter home that was identifying these kids and either trying to place them back with their families, since a lot of kids get lost in India, or putting them in shelter homes and giving them vocational training so they had the opportunity to find some sort of meaningful work. Because at that point, and this is something that I think now for the undergrads in the room to really kind of take note of, your education, that's a nice little kind of tangent. We don't understand, I think, exactly in the US just how awesome it is, the opportunities that we have to get an education, and giving it to these kids and seeing that even a rudimentary understanding of English means that that kid can work as a tour guide in India and can make a living, can pay for food, can get himself a place to live, and offers themselves a future that's more than they could have ever otherwise hoped for. And so from there, I went to Nepal right after the massive earthquake that they had, a 7.8 earthquake, one of the biggest in history, and in a country that ranks in, I think, one of the 10 poorest countries in the world. And so you're talking about a place that has no natural petroleum or gas. It's all imported from India. There's almost no natural resources to offer of any sort. And this country, in an instant, in a 30-second earthquake, had 1,000-year-old temples destroyed, had people who'd been living in the same homes for generations, had it taken away from them in an instant. And there is no FEMA in Nepal. You know, there is no emergency response system. You really have to figure it out for yourself. And something that really struck me there, and today, as I look around the room, there's people here who are, you know, in 40s, 50s, 60s. You're thinking about retirement. You're thinking about where you're going to go for your next family vacation, getting your kid into college, or, you know, what you're going to do tonight after this. Maybe you're going to go out for a drink. What you're not thinking about is, how am I going to, with my own two hands, rebuild my home, the home that my parents lived in, and their parents. Where am I going to bury the bodies of my children or my uncles or brothers and sisters that lived in my house with me? We don't have to worry about those things, because if something happens to us here, you have programs in place to help you. You have resources at your disposal. You have insurance where somebody will come and help you make your life right again. But these people don't have that. And so I had the opportunity to work in a village of 500 people in Kagati. It's about a 2.5-hour drive and a 45-minute walk after that from Kathmandu, building 50 homes and 50 toilets for this village. And to see the impact that has on the people there, to see, you know, what essentially looks like a pile of rubble to anybody else turn into a village again, to turn into these homes that these people have, being able to teach even building styles that would make their homes resistant the next time. You wrap it in chicken wire and put the brick on the outside so that your bricks won't crush your family if something happens again. Homes that are able to move with the earthquake so that they don't immediately collapse. And just to be a part and to really immerse myself in another culture, something so foreign to me. I had never even probably met somebody from Nepal before I went out there. Nobody in the village spoke English. They didn't even speak Nepali, so we couldn't bring a translator. They spoke a sub-dialect. And so there's a lot of pantomiming and like, yes, I'm hungry, no, I'm not hungry, I'm very full, things like that. But, you know, like there's like a universal language for everybody that transcends, you know, English, Nepali, Hindi, whatever language you want to speak. And you can see that when you finish the homes. And, you know, in the pictures that are up there right now, that was one of the first homes that we finished, and we got the opportunity to watch it be blessed, and they bring in the village elder, and like there's really nothing quite like it that I've ever been able to experience. And Nepal was probably my favorite country to be in. The people are amazing, like, and, you know, unstoppably optimistic, and it was just a really, really powerful experience to see. So from there, I was a little bit worn down. I think I had dropped to, at that point, about 125 pounds on a steady diet of rice and lentils 3 times a day, 3 months. And so I moved to Cambodia to work with the Cambodian Children's Fund. Is an organization started by the former president of 20th Century Fox International, Scott Neeson, who on a sabbatical trip found himself in the Stung Min-chi landfill in Phnom Penh, at the time the largest landfill in Southeast Asia, and there was a full several thousand people living amongst the garbage there, kind of scavenging for whatever they could find. And so he created this organization that basically provides education, vocational training. There's a health clinic in the area, a leadership institute. And so I got to work as an English language teacher and a leadership curriculum developer in Cambodia that was providing opportunities to these families who otherwise had known nothing but living quite literally in filth, and who had, again, nothing really, there's a theme here, like nothing to call their own, like no sense of property or pride or even of a future, and got to work with some of these students. And again, even the little bit of education that we gave them goes such a long way. And we had the opportunity to send some of these kids to the Tony Robbins Leadership Institute at UC San Diego, which was kind of cool for me, being from San Diego myself. And when they came back and they got to talk about what they'd seen and how just it expanded their horizons in a way that nothing could really compare to. That most of them don't have any understanding of even their own country outside of the city that they live in. And then to throw them halfway across the world and expose them to, like, this is what you could do. And, you know, some of those kids ended up attending UC San Diego, and they go there now, which was just the coolest thing. I cried like a little child when that happened. But from there, I moved to Vietnam. I was teaching in the mountains in Sapa with the Hmong minority, just helping them gain an education so they could go to school in Hanoi or in Ho Chi Minh. Again, just an opportunity to kind of gain like a meaningful existence. And you know, since I've been back, I spent some time in Australia after that, and then came back here. But since I've been back, I guess the way I look at it is like we're so lucky with everything that we have, and for all of us here, like none of us chose to be born in the U.S. or to be born where we were. You didn't choose to have parents that worked wherever they did. You didn't choose to be as lucky as you did to grow up where you were with the opportunities that you've had to do all of the things that we've done. In the same breath, like that family that I met in Nepal, it's just bad luck that was the lot that they had in life. And so I don't feel like what I did was special, or that like I am somehow this exemplary person, though I appreciate the praise. But like, it's a debt that we owe to you know, your fellow people. They're people just like us. They've got the same hopes, the same dreams. Like they have the same inherent right to all of the things that we take for granted every day. And it's just something you got to do, I think. You know, I said it in the video that a lot of you guys, undergrads, are getting ready to graduate, thinking about the job you're going to take after college. And maybe you end up working there for the rest of your life and you're totally satisfied with that. But taking 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years to go and help other people because you have the ability to do it is something that I firmly believe you should do. And for me, I've come back and, you know, my life is infinitely better for it. And if maybe I have lost out on 2 years worth of going to the same bars with the same guys, drinking the same beer, looking at the same girls that none of us are going to talk to, like, because that's the reality of the situation. I've come back and I have found that so many of the people that I've gone to school with, and if you decide to do the same thing, so many of the people that you've gone to school with will be in that same place when they get back, and they're going to like you the same. They're going to be your friends. Chris and I are still friends, even though I've been gone for 2 years. But you're going to have 2 years or 3 years or however much time you decide to commit to it of the most incredible, rewarding experience. And it's going to give you a perspective on life that's going to just, every day that you go forward, I think you'll be a better person. You'll be kinder to other people. You'll be I guess, sort of at a loss for words. I haven't had to speak in front of people in a very, very long time. But I can't say enough how important it is. There's so many people that need help, and there's so many just tragedies going on around the world. There's crisis in Syria. There's famine all throughout Africa. And, you know, Brother Steve Weimer had an opportunity to be serving in Africa, and that's a tremendous experience. And so I guess with the last slide that's up there, I saw that sign when I was in Laos shortly before kind of concluding my service work, and it was eerily convenient that sign was there on the way to the airport, because, you know, that's a Phi Kappa thing. Like, where are we going? You know, what do you want your legacy to be, your life to be? Do you want it to be a 9 to 5 from 25 until the time that you're 60? I certainly hope not, because there's so many more ways that you can contribute and do something. And I encourage everybody to just go do it, man. Like, it's the best decision you'll ever make. So thank you so much for this, guys. I really, really appreciate it.
To say 3 things. 1, that was awesome. That was really awesome. And I love the fact that you said you haven't spoken in public much, because not only was the work you did impressive, the story was awesome. And I know it touched many of us. It's very cool. 2, you need to get in shape. You're not in very good shape at all. And so work on that, okay? And then 3, do you guys remember the #1 thing that Boise Bollinger, probably one of the most successful people many of us have ever met? Do you remember what he said last night when he gave you advice? He said that's what he looks for with an employee, but the piece of advice he gave all of us was do something that stretches your comfort zone. Do something that's different. If you don't like to cook, cook, right? I don't know too many of us who feel very comfortable in a Nepalese village building houses without your cell phone, Facebook, or your beer buddies, or ESPN, right? That is an example of how it can enrich your life, and through you, all of us. It's awesome, man. You are a model Phi Kappa, and it is really an honor to know you. So thank you very much.